Hey, it's Tom, and today we have a care video for the pickle plant, otherwise known as the Kleinia stapeliiformis. Okay, so this plant has lots of different names. Pickle plant is probably the most common. There are also some other house plants with the name pickle plant, so there is confusion. It also is now in a new genus, Kleinia, and it did used to be in Senecio. So you may see some of the plant labels having conflicting names. However, this plant is very obvious what it is when you see it. It's actually native to, I believe, only South Africa. So it's very localized to one small section of the world. And it's quite an unusual plant. So if you see it, you're going to know what it is straight away. The other pickle plant is very, very different, and you can just see it here. I'll pull it up here so you can have a look at it. You can obviously see there's a massive difference between the two. This one is called the pickle plant because again I'll show some footage and zoom in for you so you can see. But there's like little pickles on the stems, which is why it's got its name. But yeah, it's very an interesting house plant. As you can see, it's sort of wobbling around. It's sturdy, but it probably needs a little bit of support when it gets a bit taller. So that's something to bear in mind. It is actually pet friendly. It's not toxic to pets or anything, but it's quite fragile. So you probably need to keep it away from pets for the plant's safety in this instance. And obviously children or anyone who wants to play with it. So you do need to be careful there. But it is very beautiful, as you can see. And it's a very fast growing plant, which I'll get onto later in the video about what we need to do. So let's get stuck into some care tips and I'll tell you a bit more about the plant as we go. The light needs for this plant are reasonably varied, so you've got a choice really. It is a succulent and it does best, arguably, in full sun. However, if you do put it in full sun, the leaves tend to go, or the stems, sorry, tend to go a little bit purple, which I personally don't actually like. I actually like it when it's a little bit greener, a little bit lighter. It looks a bit more funky. And this is growing in a southwest facing window, so it gets some sunlight in the late evenings, and it avoids the purple hue on the leaves. I did have it a bit closer to the window before, and the purple I just didn't feel it, to be fair. So I moved it away, and it's reverted back to the lighter green, which I prefer. But this plant is a super fast grower anyway, and I haven't particularly noticed a slowdown in the speed of growth. So full sun, okay, but it will also take a little bit less. But it does need some sunlight, at least a couple of hours a day just to perform at its best. Medium light is probably pushing it, to be honest, and definitely not a low light plant. To avoid low light. It is a succulent and it wants the sun. The watering needs are quite straightforward too. Shouldn't go wrong with that. It is water it well, and then do not water it again until it is dried out. It's the same kind of advice I would give for most succulent plants. And this applies here as well. It does not want to be constantly wet. It does not want to be moist all the time. It does need that drying out period. It's what it's used to. Its native habitat, it will be used to a downpour and then a long period of time of drying before it rains again. And that's what it wants inside as well. So if you can do that, which should be quite straightforward, you're not keep putting your fingers in. You're just going to wait till it completely dries out and then water it again. It can deal with underwatering, weeks of no water, it can deal with that, but not constantly wet soil. As for winter, if you have a winter like I do, I'm in England, so we have distinctive seasons. So if you live in part of the world which has a distinct season, and that would mean cold in winter and less light, then it will go dormant, the plant. It will stop growing and it would sort of go dormant. And basically, when it happens, you need to cut back on the watering. I might be watering this maybe once every 3 weeks in winter, and just a little bit. I don't soak it in the winter. It's just a trickle, just a quick, with a little watering can. Maybe, I know it sounds silly to say it like this, but I'm just talking literally maybe 2 or 3 seconds of water coming out of the little watering can. Stop. Literally just enough, just to gently sort of saturate the soil, but not soak it. It just doesn't need the water in winter. So do cut back if you're having a season like I am where the temperatures go down and the light levels drop as well. With temperature, the plant wants to be quite warm, and that's what it likes. It's a warm, loving houseplant. So warm temperatures, please. Yes. In the winter, it can deal with cooler temperatures. 5 degrees Celsius, which is 41 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. If it's wrong, I'll correct myself. But yes, that's the lowest I would recommend. And that's if the potting mix also needs to be reasonably dry at that temperature. If it's not dry and it's quite wet, then it may rot. So I wouldn't go any lower than that temperature. And do be careful of there being a lot of water swishing around the roots as well, because it could increase the chances of rotting. They're not particularly heavy feeders. I personally feed mine not, I mean, I do feed it quite regularly, I suppose, to be honest. It's not one of these plants I would never feed, but it's only a week feed I'll provide. So it's heavily diluted, and I'll probably do it maybe once a month during the growing period, which is sort of mid to late spring until end of summer. So I don't feed it all year round. It's just during the time when there's actually growth happening, which we'll cover shortly. But yes, you don't need to feed constantly, and you don't need to feed heavily. They are used to nutrient poor conditions, and you can, there's no need. If you overfeed, you might get lanky growth. It might go too leggy, it might flop over, or you might end up with things like fertilizer burn. So just don't overdo it. There's no need to. Repotting is not something you need to do very often. It takes the plant is fast growing. It does grow quick, but it still takes a while to fill the container. The roots are reasonably superficial compared to what you might see above the soil. But eventually, the plant itself will reach the edge of the container, or the roots will, after a while, they will completely fill the container, and you do need to repot at that point. Otherwise, it will stop growing. You won't get any more growth. So if you want it to grow and you want it to spread and you want it to look amazing and keep going, then you do need to repot it well, I won't give you a period of time. It's not like every couple of years. It's when the plant needs it. So just have a look and see what's going on. And if you see the roots coming out the bottom, or they're just very congested, it might be time to think about repotting. As for the potting mix, something which is free draining is ideal. Something that's designed for succulents or cacti you're not going to go wrong with that. You probably could get away with using normal potting mix or compost. You have to be very, very careful. So do be cautious if you decide to go down that route. Or alternatively, you can use that, but add in maybe perlite or gravel, something non-porous, just to give it a bit more of an open sort of texture and structure inside to allow the water to come through and not be too saturated. Right, let's talk about the growth. So this is one of those plants that grow only for a short period of time. Well, not short, but it grows for a very specific, that's the word I use, a very specific period of time during the year, which is spring and summer. Outside of those periods of time, it doesn't grow. It just does not grow. It won't do anything. So you only get a window each year where the plant will grow, but it does grow fast. Okay, so a small plant could possibly double or triple in size very easily in one growing season. I bought this plant maybe 2 years ago and it was very small. I'll show you what it looked like originally. And look at it today. It's a lot bigger, and that's fast. That's only a couple of years worth of growth, which I think is quite impressive for succulent, especially. So as long as you can provide warm temperatures, good light levels, and you do water it properly, you do give it the water and the feed, it will grow fast. It will perform well for you. Okay, let's consider some problems you might come across. None. Honestly, it's so easy. No, 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 no. There's always issues, isn't there, with these houseplants? There aren't particularly many, and we've kind of covered them already. They're easily overcome, so there's not a plant to be concerned about. It's so forgiving and it's so easy, and that's another reason I love it. Okay, so you may end up with the purple leaves. Looking at this now, I can see a slight amount. There's a different color, so I'm going to show you a photo of what I'm talking about in case you don't know what I mean. You can definitely see part of it being a bit purple and the rest of it being a bit green. I don't like that. Anyway, that is why it's doing it. Too much light has caused it to go like that. It's not a problem. The plant is used to that. It's doing it. It's a natural protective mechanism. A lot of succulents will change the green to like a darker, like a purpley red color. It's a natural protection mechanism from harsh sunlight. And if you move it back away from that harsh positioning, it will go back to what it was before. And yeah, I don't personally like it, but I can understand why some people might. It's down to you. You can choose. That's another versatility aspect of this plant. You can choose what it looks like. The last thing you might come across is how the plant looks in terms of its structure. So I like it to be upright, and they do tend to grow upright. If the light levels are low or there is no support whatsoever, I should actually point out, in its where I'm growing it normally, it's pressed against the wall, so it has a bit of support on one side, so it doesn't flop over. If it has no support at all and it gets a little bit taller than this, it's going to flop over and it's going to sort of sprawl around instead. Some people like that look. That's absolutely fine. No issues. But if you are a fan of this kind of rising up sort of look, you may need to provide that support. If you are providing support and it's still flopping over, it may be that the light levels are too low, your watering may be slightly off. All those things can influence how the plant grows. But those are the main issues. If you have additional problems that I haven't covered or any questions, put it in the comments and I will do my best to share my experiences and what I've learned and what I've come across over the years and what I will hopefully continue to come across as well, because these plants are, well, I hope it's going to be in my collection for quite a while. I really like it, so I'm sure I'm going to learn more as time goes on. But that's it for this video. If there's anything else you want to suggest or ask me, please just reach out and let me know. But otherwise, thanks for your time. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.